Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. Your host, John Acosta. Today is September 12th, 2025, and this is episode 129. Got a lot going on. Charlie Kirk murder. The assassin who murdered Charlie Kirk has been captured. The alleged murderer of Charlie Kirk has been captured after a few days on the run. Taylor Robinson, 22 years old, from Utah, apparently turned in by his father. President Trump made the announcement this morning. He stated if found guilty, the death penalty should be applied. All right. Charlie Kirk's body was flown on Air Force Two and received by his family. This is just another shocking event. Nothing to do with guns, honestly. This is not a gun situation. This is an assassin, a political assassination. Because of Charlie Kirk's beliefs that went against another group's beliefs. And so he was murdered. And you'll see people applauding his murder. And I think that is going to strike very deep into people on how the left is exposing their true agenda. Democratic lawmaker compares slain Charlie Kirk to Charlotte train murderer. Democratic West Virginia State Representative Antira L. Hamilton seemed to accuse Turning Point USA Charlie Kirk of racism and domestic terrorism on social media on Thursday, appearing to compare him to the man who recently stabbed a Ukrainian refugee to death on a train. Quoted, "You can murder one woman on a train by stabbing her in the neck and be condemned by the masses, or you can travel the nation spewing hatred and racism, harming thousands, and be loved by the masses, and both have the same outcome." So, when Charlie Kirk was speaking about God and Jesus, and that being gay or transgender, and transgenders being mentally ill, that was the same as going on a train and stabbing someone in the neck and killing them. Do you see what's going on here? And these are people voted into office saying this. I am telling you, America is not going to stand for it. Good people, Republicans, Democrats, even some liberals, are not going to stand for that. They'll at least come out and say that is not our beliefs. But that's not what's happening right now. You're having people come out and saying it was Charlie Kirk who brought this on. West Virginia Republican Representative Riley Moore, who represents the entirety of Hamilton's seat at the federal level, called for the state lawmaker to be expelled from the state legislature legislature for her disgusting and shameful behavior. This is the ideology we're up against, tolerating the warped mindset that leads to disgusting behavior like this from the radical leftists with no consequences how we end up with a 31-year-old dad being shot and killed in cold blood. We cannot have representatives in our legislature justifying murder, he added. Also called for her firing from the West Virginia University Council for Gender Equality or Equity. Moore noted in subsequent posts that he believes the woke council at that school should be abolished. Now, you can have your beliefs, and you can believe that pretending in your fantasy world that you're a woman when you're not, or a man when you're not, you could, in your world, dress up as a woman or dress up as a man when you're not. You can do that. You can be gay. You can do that. That is your right. But I also have the right to say, I believe that being gay is wrong, that it goes against my belief values, that being transgender could very well be mental illness, and dressing up as something you're not can be your fantasy, but it does not mean I have to indulge your fantasy. I'm not required to be part of your fantasy. And what Representative Hamilton from West Virginia is saying, I should be shot for my beliefs because they differ from hers. Democrats, defend that, please. Defend her. Defend Matthew Dode, who making hateful comments right after the murder of Charlie Kirk. Defend that. Oh, that's free speech. Oh, you can have free speech. There's consequences for that free speech. Like you'd be fired. Not that you'd be murdered, but you could be fired. Free speech does not apply to the workspace. It's already been vetted, folks. The Democrats are just sinking lower and lower. Sidney A. McPhee, the president of the Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, said that the university had fired an employee who made inappropriate and callous comments on social media after the shooting. So schools are now looking, and workplaces. So you want to go on social media and do that, go ahead, you can do it, you'll be fired. Governor Tim Walz just last week had made comments of how he wished he woke up to find that Trump had died and told his supporters, just wait, it will happen. Tim Walz, who had 2 children murdered in his state by a trans, and 2 Democratic political figures murdered in his state, not by a MAGA, but someone that held a personal grudge against those 2 individuals. He had his city cities burned down in 2020, and he did nothing. And then he goes out and makes these comments that then lead into violence. In earlier comments, he urged his supporters to get tough with Republicans and bully them. Now, remember when Auntie Waters from California said to follow Republicans, their families, harass them, get in their faces, abuse them because they support Trump. Remember that? Remember her going out when rioting and going, unless they convict a certain individual for murder because he protected himself, there'll be no peace. Remember that? How about Schumer from New York stated, they are sending paid protesters to disrupt Republican district town hall meetings to show those Republicans that they will face consequences for their political agenda. What does consequences mean, Senator Schumer? Should they be worried that you're sending people to shoot them? Late night talk hosts laughing at Tesla cars and charging stations being vandalized. Businesses being protested by paid agitators to make the left agenda seem relevant. And you get your Jimmy Kimmel and your Colbert, who make these outlandish comments, who ramp up the left and agitate them into acting in violent manners. You don't think so? Wait and see. Wait and see. The Democrats have nothing but hate, no plan, just hate, and their agenda of making crime normal. The left wants you to think that crime is normal and that this is something that we just must accept because there are people that don't have, and you have, and you don't have a right to that. You've had it too good, and we want a piece of that goodness. We don't want to work for it. We want to take it from you. That is what the left is trying to do. We could take 2020. Remember the summer of love, where civil unrest that erupted across the United States following the death of George Floyd, a criminal who died while resisting arrest and who Mayor Jenny Durkin coined the phrase, no, they're not riots, they're just a summer of love. This is the idea that social justice, criminal activity, is to be thought of as normal. Look at the left glorifying Floyd, a criminal, a violent criminal. And they have statues and memorials, and you can't erase his name from a street, a public street. The state didn't write that lettering, that someone put it there. But you can't go there and spray, I love President Trump. You'll be arrested for being graffiti, destroying public property. But they want their agenda to be normal and legal. Tell me, defend that, Democrats. And this isn't me ranting, Bob in New York. It's me pointing out facts. Tell me how that is normal. And if you tell me, well, that's what the people want, okay. You want to play that card? Let's play that card. And we'll show you what the people want. And then you must do it without question, without consequences. Is that what you want? No. You'll scream, no, no, I want the law to protect me. The law can protect me, but they can't protect you, Republicans, or MAGA. No, no, no. Can't have that. We can't have the laws protect us. What is being made very clear in America, the notion that Americans want the minority outside the normal values of people demanding only their way or violence. Well, that was rejected November 5th, 2024, and that will never return. That will never, ever, ever return. Being gay is not normal. Being transgender is not a stable mental condition. It's not. Being gay is not normal. Being transgender is not a stable mental condition, again. It is not. And making you believe that you're normal when you're not is truly criminal. Now, you can be gay and you can be transgender. You can do that. You could be a cross-dresser. You can do all that. But you don't get special rights. You don't have special rules just for you. A crime doesn't become a super crime because of your choices. If you get assaulted because you're gay, well, you're assaulted. I don't care what the reasons were. You were assaulted. People should be arrested for assaulting you. If you're transgender or a cross-dresser, and you're attacked because of that, those people doing it should be arrested. They're criminals. You were assaulted. No one should be assaulted. No one should be hurt. You should be able to vote. You should be able to drive a car. You should not be treated any differently than your true sexual self. If you're a gay male, why would you be treated as if you were a woman by a medical doctor? Why would a medical doctor need to have to look at women issues? Same thing with transgenders. You might be a man that has changed his physical appearance to that of a woman, or a woman who changes her physical appearance to that of a man, but you're still a woman. And if you're a man, you're still a man. Unless you're having your prostate removed, your internal makeup is still that of a man and must be examined as that of a man. You're a man, you don't need a pap test. But you do need a breast exam. Men get breast exams. I can understand that. And under your treatment, you do need testosterone treatments or drugs to counter that. I'm fine with that. But you're still a man. Or you're still a woman. That will never go away. Your brain is wired differently. Your body is built differently. Follow the science. But should you be hurt because of it? No. I just shouldn't have to pay for it. I shouldn't have to pay for your transgender surgery. You want to pay for that? Have at it. No child under 18 should be given any medication for it, or have any body-altering surgery done to them until they're adults. And when they're adults, the family or that person has to pay that. That does not come out of Medicare, Medicaid. Doesn't happen in a prison. We're not paying for that. We're not indulging your fantasy. And I shouldn't have to do it. If I can't go and get plastic surgery done for free or through my insurance, why can you get it? Because you want to have super rights? No. If you want equality, then you have to be treated like me too. How about that? How about that logic? Democrats. Or gay or transgender Republicans defend that. Defend your position on what I just said. If you want to be treated equally, then you have to be treated equally. No special rights. No special dispensations. Unless you're mentally ill. And then we're going to treat you accordingly. So, we're going to treat you accordingly. You don't get special rights. You don't get super rights. The left was defeated in the voting booth in November. And now the left wants to change that by violence in our country. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. A professor at Texas State University was asked on Wednesday after a video of him, not allegedly, he was advocating it, for political violence during a socialism conference went viral. Tom Walter, a now former associate history professor at TSU and member of the Socialist Horizon, spoke at the online Revolutionary Socialism Conference of 2025 on September 7th, according to screen shots taken from and shared on X. Where he said, how can we take over the capitalist America without violence? Now, as common sense people, we must demand that our teachers from K through 12 keep to the original goals of learning, reading, math, writing, science, and our social connections to each other. Remember, we had civics classes. We learned about voting. We learned about the Constitution, state laws, legislation, how that works. I mean, it was like in the 4th grade and then again in the 8th grade. We have to get back to that. And in that social connection, we must speak of the norm social connections. And maybe in the 10th and 11th and 12th grade, you could teach about alternate and having to respect and understand the mentally ill and the handicapped. You can do that. The brain is now capable of working at a much higher level than a 6-year-old who still has to be told, wash your hands when you leave the bath. Why? Because of germs. I don't see germs. And, you know, common sense. We lost our common sense. No, we didn't lose our common sense. We were told our common sense was not their common sense. When 90% of us are looking at each other going, what? And we don't, out of politeness, out of us not wanting to be confrontational in a public scene, just go, whatever. No more whatever. No more whatever. I tell people you're nuts. Well, that's a crazy idea. Tell me why it's not a crazy idea. And then they start screaming at you. And the minute people start screaming at you, you won your argument. Or they start bringing up, what about ism? You know, so a good idea is always a good idea no matter where it comes from, folks. But a bad idea is always a bad idea, no matter who it comes from. Our advanced private learning schools, colleges, private schools should have the right to hire by their standards while meeting the constitutional burden, of course. I don't want to hire you because you're black. That's a problem, of course. But it also means that they get to hire by their ability, the school's abilities bar, and not by the numbers. I have to have X amount of the people on my staff of this color, of this race, of this belief, or I'm in violation of the law. No, no. If I'm running a business, I get to say what the dress code is. If I'm running a business, I get to say who I want the face of the company to look like, that people see every day. When you go to a gym and you see the people working there, Do you see fat pigs? Out of shape people that could hardly walk? No, because that's not what my business is about. If I'm running a weight loss center, do I want a person welcoming a new client in that is the size of a small planet? No, that's not what I want. If I run a club that has beautiful girls dancing there, do I have to hire an ugly girl? No. Do I have to hire someone that is a person that does not fit what I want the face of my establishment to look at when you walk in, and that is your first impression? No. I'm not forced. I should not have to be forced to do that. Yet that's what the liberals saying. Inclusive. No. No. Having you making me shoehorn people is not being inclusive. I'm being forced, and I don't want to do that. Businesses have the right to hire who they want. Now, if I have a store that sells or dispenses medical marijuana, or in states where marijuana is legal, you don't need a card, you don't need anything. You just walk in, you got to be over 21 or whatever the legal age is, and you could buy marijuana. And that's state rights. No problem with state rights. But if I want that individual to dress like Cheech and Chong, or Cheech and Chong lookalikes come in there, and that is the base of my customers that are coming in here, I'd have no problem hiring them. If they met the ability and criteria that I was looking for, yeah, sure. If I knew that if I had him dress up in a suit and tie, some of the clientele might not come in here, and I'd be losing business that I want to attract. So I, as the owner, I know what I want for my business. Should I be compelled to take people that I do not want? That's simple, folks. But that's not what they want. In the public, you can be gay, transgender, cross-dresser, but a business should have the right to say that those values and choices do not mean that a business must be bound to hire you. They can, but that does not mean that your choice overrides ability or what I want the face of my company to look like. It's that simple. And I state this theme over and over again, Democrats. The midterms are lost to you now. You had an opportunity. You had a chance to be relevant again, but you doubled down on the hate and the violence instead of accepting the loss in 2024 and rebuilding your brand by working with the president to mold legislation that you could live with. You were part of it. You had some say in where this was going to go. But your leadership betrayed the moderate Democrats in favor for the 5%ers and illegals. Deny that statement. Deny that statement. The Democrats have sealed their own fate for the next 8 years, and it could be longer. Now, an article today, New York MTA lost $1 billion to fare evasion in 2024. Why? And it's just not New York. This is not, how could this happen? And this is not just something that New York is facing. A lot of cities are facing this. Blue, red. And that's the criminal element. Because the police were told not to arrest criminals in the subways who jump the turnstiles because it's a low-level crime and it's not, you know. We have bigger fish to fry mentality. But there's a reason they're doing that. So these people that violate that law then go down into the subways and commit more crimes like pushing people on the tracks, rapes, muggings, and random violent acts. This is the liberal policy of making the public think crime is normal. That we must accept this is just what happens. Crime is normal. And we don't say that, well, because we have a Second Amendment and people use guns, that's normal. No, they're criminals. Arrest them. We have no problem arresting criminals who have guns or use guns. Lock them up. New York had, if you got caught with a gun, you got 20 years automatically. Never was enforced. Chicago, Philadelphia, LA. Never enforced. Why? Because they want you to think that crime is normal. And when it comes to guns, it wouldn't be a crime. See, we wouldn't have a crime if there were no guns. Well, the people jumping the turnstiles going down there might not have had a gun. They might have had a knife, or they just might have used physical. Got physical, beat people up. But if the police would have arrested them for jumping the turnstiles, they wouldn't be down in the subway attacking people. And also not paying their fare. Do you think those criminals go, oh, hold it, I gotta find my Metro card, swipe my Metro card to get in? Do you think for a minute that's happening? Now, these are also people, when they say fare evasion, they're taking into people that don't pay the toll at the bridge because now everything's electronic. There's not the guys, hand me, $1.50 and gate opens and you go. To keep traffic flowing, now they have electronics. They read your license plates, but people block out their license plates. Or they put a different license plate on there. Now, electronics are getting a lot better with that to say, hey, yeah, that license plate was stolen, or that's not a valid license plate anymore. Or that's an out-of-state license plate that has come through here every day. And we haven't gotten money from these people. We send them a little thing. We have got to check them out. So they've gotten better at tolls and stuff in stopping that. But down below in the subways, nope, nope. And like I said, it's just not New York, but the country in general. It's a thing where the left is trying to normalize your feeling and desensitize you on crime. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, and then at the same time, they want to defund the police. What's the agenda there? It's to make crime normal. And the crime that's happening in the inner city and you're not having it out here, that's not equity. You have to have the same crime. And it just moves out like a cancer. And when you have police, then they go, no, you're not pulling those shenanigans here. You're racist, racist, racist. I'll say it again. Democrats telling Republicans to tone down our rhetoric, which is God, the laws, the science of gender, and telling us to turn it down or we'll shoot you. Because isn't that what's happening? Turn it down. Where you have Jasmine Crockett saying, the police aren't there to prevent crime. They're only there to clean up the mess that happens after a crime. Well, isn't that interesting logic? The left are the ones that are killing people. And we're the problem? How about stop calling us Nazis and killers and Hitlers and fascists? How about that, Democrats? How about that, Senator Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Waters, Warren, Green? How about that? How about stop calling us that we're all Nazis? And what happened to the Nazis? They needed to be wiped out. Right? So you're telling your people that we're Nazis and we need to be dealt with like we did with the Nazis. Is that what you stand for? The Democrats saying we're at war. We're doing battle with the Republicans. We're in a battle. What battle? I didn't see Congress declare war on anyone. Where's this battle you're talking about, Democrats? This is all going to be used by the Republicans during the midterms. I honestly think that in blue states, you're going to lose blue states. people who thought they were safe in blue states, you're not going to be safe. You're going to have a run for the money. And where you were getting support by these leftists, where you go to and huddle with them and cry with them and nod in approval as we're being called Nazis and fascists and dictators, you're going to now have to take a side. Are you with them? Or are you with the Constitution and the laws of this nation? And we're going to call you out daily on that. There are going to be people giving speeches you've never heard of. That are going to give speeches on why the Democrats have become the true danger to the Republic. And why. The rhetoric that you are saying, we are saying, mental health, our laws, that you call rhetoric, is what we call common sense. And you had Senator Kaine out of Virginia go on record as saying the Bill of Rights is wrong. That it's no better than the Taliban Sharia law. This is your downfall. That type of thinking, that type of logic, where you can have it and you should not be shot for it. You just shouldn't be elected for it. And that's what we're going to do. And instead of, like you do, literally gunning for us, we're going to go out there and we are just going to out-campaign you. Normal, everyday people giving speeches to normal, everyday people. The cost of eggs, the cost of gas is irrelevant if I'm dead. Or hurt. Or my family is dead or hurt. It is irrelevant. You will, by your own actions, Democrats, embolden a president to be even tougher and more resolved. And you don't understand that. And after 10 years of Trump, you don't understand. And I'm not saying placate him or roll over and submit to him on his every whim, because I don't agree with his every whim. But if you want to stay relevant, the president has to be able to listen to you and go, okay, that makes sense. But when you go out there and you crap on him, his family, his hair, his skin color choice, calling him a rapist, you can call him a convicted felon because he is a convicted felon. You can call him that. I don't have a problem with you calling that. He was never convicted of raping anyone. Everything we know about Trump with Epstein is out there. There's nothing new. If there was anything new, Biden or whoever, it would have been released. It would have been released. And you guys holding on to the Epstein is your we should know, the people should know, the people. Well, why didn't you release that when you were in power? Democrats? Well, it wasn't important then. Now it's important. Why is it important now? Because you're making it important? Yeah. Do you see, Democrats? We see through all that. Even the news media is now challenging themselves and relooking at themselves and going, all right, yeah, we were wrong. We were wrong. Keep calling us fascists. Keep calling us Nazis. Keep calling us Hitler. And you see where that's going to go. And you don't even think that you take an individual like Charlie Kirk, and yes, he was strong-worded. Yes, he was uber right. Yes, but he wasn't mean. He just said what he believed. And now you martyred him. This 22-year-old confused adult who has a pro-transgender agenda has martyred the guy who will do more harm to your agenda than anyone else could have done up being alive. He will do more now that he's dead against gays and against the transgender movement than he could have ever done living. And didn't anyone warn these children, these young adults about that? Who was feeding him these lines that he must be eliminated? Who did that? I'll tell you who. Schumer, Pelosi, Kane, the Democrats. They were the ones that put those thoughts in these people's heads. Walsh. These are the people who put those thoughts into the mentally ill's head to do it. And now you took a Charlie Kirk who had a loyal following and really honestly was not that known to people above 30 years of age because he was very youth active. Get them while they're young. Remember that? Get them while they're young and get them onto your platform. Remember the young Republican clubs and things like that? They get them on to their agenda. But now you propelled this guy. You martyred him. It's not going to be good for you. All right, with that, it's almost an hour. I got 2 shows going up, back to back. This one's going to go out. I don't think I'm going to put any edit in here except my thing to join my page and join my podcast on YouTube. If you haven't and you've heard this and you've stayed, please, I need subscribers. I have viewers, but I need subscribers. I don't do this, not a monetized channel. I don't need that. I mean, I'd like it. If I won lotto tomorrow, I'd be very happy. But this is not a job to me. This now has become a passion. And everything I say is not right. And everything I say is not of other people's values. And I don't want to force my values on anyone. Except Bob in New York. But what I want you to do is think about it. Think about your actions and consequences. Think about that. And I think about that even on things President Trump does. What are the consequences of doing that? How are you going to do what you say you're going to do and not impact over here did you want to impact that? Because you didn't say anything about over there, you were saying about over here. But do you understand by doing that, you impact over here? And while everyone's applauding, yay, yay over here, no one's thinking about, well, what happens over here? How, yeah. And I believe in that. I believe in asking questions. I believe in going to the Constitution to find out, is that what our forefathers were thinking about? Was that the plan? And you find that our forefathers were pretty smart people. And you could look at the circumstances that they were going through then and then apply it to the circumstances that are happening today. Just change the date and change the location, but the circumstances are the same. And they were addressing that. And that's what makes the Constitution wonderful. So I'm not asking to change anyone. Change comes from within. I don't click my heels to any party. Even though I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I'm a Federalist. I believe in the laws. I believe you can change the laws. I believe that you must obey the laws until they're changed. and then hopefully fix what happened because of that. But I think you have to have common sense and not let emotions drive you. You have to use common sense. And did I always use common sense? Absolutely not. Was I ever driven in the political side by emotion? Yes, without knowing all the facts. And uh, I might have voted differently if I would have been aware of all the facts. And now, where I say we are in trouble is, where do you get those facts from? We no longer have books and as such that we can go into. We get people that write books, and history is always written by the victor in most cases. And now people go out onto the internet, and the only information is whatever the search engine is allowing out there. So people go, well, that's what Google said. I Googled it, or I grokked it, or whatever it's, and that's the answer I get. Well, okay. Who put that answer there? Is there anyone that came up with a different answer? Because I can't find it. And I know there's a different answer. Because it says so in this book that I have from 1957. So, if we get all our water from one well, and all of a sudden they poison that well, yet we still have to drink from it. Let me think about that. All right, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Give to a charity. Make sure it's a valid charity. Don't become a victim helping a victim. Give to a food bank. Food banks need more than just food. Check with them. Give. And maybe the next time you give toilet paper. But ask them what they need for your next visit. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. And I'll have this up here as soon as possible. And with that, I am going to fade to black.